Hi, I'm Vanessa Sutherland. I'm making the video for part 10 in Design and Develop Assessment Tools. Hi everyone, so thank you for coming along and agreeing to evaluate some of the assessment tools that we've created. We've got 3 units to cover today. Unit 1 is, well, I should say all 3 are related to the physiotherapy module. So in the Certificate for Allied Health Assistance course. So they're all related to physio, and we're going to go through and evaluate the tools for those today. So I'm just going to give you all one of these folders each at the moment. So basically, what we want to discuss is why we need to assess. So the reason we need to assess is because we need to comply with the rules of evidence. So we need to make sure our assessment methods we obtain are sufficient. So we need to get enough evidence so that we have, so we usually have a few examples of exams or assessment tasks, however you'd like to call them. So we call them assessment instruments, but we need to make sure we've got sufficient enough to say that we've gathered enough evidence for each of them in the unit. Under the rules of evidence, we also need to see that this is your work. So when you do your assessment tasks, we perform them usually here in class or in the clinic so that we can see that it's authentic and it's your own work. So the other thing with your assessments, by performing them now, we'll also know that we're meeting the rules of evidence, that it's actual current evidence. We need to make sure your competency is current so that you can meet the current standards of the unit and what's required in the workplace at the moment. As far as the validity of these assignments, the reasons we complete practical tasks and written tasks and things like that is because there's different elements in each unit that are going to be required across the workplace. So in physiotherapy specifically, it's a really hands-on workplace type task. So we actually have a practical element in each of these units to make sure we're covering that side of things. We also need to do all 3 assessments to ensure we cover the criteria in the units as well and comply with the rules of evidence and the principles of assessment. Now, to ensure reliability of these tests between learners, as an assessor, I'll refer to a marking guide when we're grading your assessment. This is so that under the principles of assessment, you'll be reliably graded so that if ever another assessor stepped in, we would mark the same. And it's a fair and reliable assessment grade that you receive. The other thing about fairness under the principles of assessment is that we need to offer you the chance for questions and also to ensure that you're being assessed on content that you've actually been taught. So when you go through these units, I want you to make sure that it's covering content that you feel you've been taught in classes. If you feel that for some reason you've been treated unfairly or that you haven't been taught any of this content at all, under the principles of assessment, you're able to discuss these concerns with your supervisor, myself as a teacher, or the head of the course as well. You'll have 10 days to submit that request for review. So make sure after your assessment has gone through, if you feel that it was unfair or for any reason that you would like to discuss it, you've got 10 days to submit. So we're also flexible as well. So under the principles of assessment, if you feel you've met the competencies of the unit by either completion of a previous unit or through experience in the field, then we may be able to recognise this competency and offer you RPL as well, which is recognition of prior learning. Just let me know if you think that this may apply to you, and I'll organise to get those forms and we can discuss what may be appropriate. So what I'd like you to do now, I've given you the folders for each of the units. Each of them has a copy of the National Training Package in it, a unit assessment guide, and the assessment instruments, which are the actual assessment tasks that are used for each unit. So there's also here on the side too, I've got a copy of the assessment guide that we use here at TAFE New South Wales. So it's got all the policies and procedures about running assessments. So if you'd like to go through that too, I have that also. For the purpose of this video, I've only printed out one set of each unit just to save paper. In a real scenario with real learners, I would make sure that I had one copy of each unit for each learner to make sure that they all have the same information. But just for this purpose, to save paper, I've just printed one of each unit. So if you can open up what I'll actually do, I'll give you a copy of the evaluation checklist. Now what I'd like you to do with these, as you go through each unit, so we'll do one unit each in each folder, and then as you completed your unit, if we can just swap folders so that we can, oh that's right, that's your 3.
Oh, that's fine.
No,
That's it.
Yep, sorry, I've broken them into 3. So I've already labelled them unit 1, 2 and 3, so you've got one for each one. There's 4 pages in total for each evaluation checklist, so 2 pages which are double-sided. So what I want you to do is, if you can just go through the assessments, have a look at the training packages. The unit assessment guide will give you a good idea and overview of what the actual course entails as far as assessment. It will give you information about the due dates, who to contact, the assessment conditions, what you need to provide, what I will provide. It's got a good overall of everything. And then behind the unit assessment guide, you will find the actual assessment instruments. So in the purple folder and in the pink folder, there will be 3 assessments for each of the units. And in the blue folder here, there are 4 assessments. So if we can just go through, the goal of the questions are on the evaluation checklist for you to go through. Just want you to make sure that each of those things have been addressed, so that you're checking off what's in the evaluation checklist, making sure that it makes sense in the actual assessment task. If you have any suggestions, if you feel that there's something you don't understand, if you think there's something that could be written better or clearer with better instructions or different instructions, please just put it on your comments form so we can have a look at it. The idea of this is more just to go over and make sure that it's a very clear set of assessment tools for people when we deliver the unit. So, does anyone have any questions at all at the moment about what we need to be doing?
No, that makes sense.
So I'm just going to let the learners here go through and have a look at each of the units. After they've gone through each unit in their folders and they're ticking off what they feel they can find in the unit or what they can't find and any comments they need to make, we'll just swap the folders around so that each learner is having the chance to have a look at a full unit on their own.
Is it just pass, fail, competence and non-competence?
Yeah, so in the assessment guidelines, you'll find that it's a satisfactory or unsatisfactory result. So we don't go by percentages anymore. It will be a pass-fail. There are some assessment tasks where you need to have all answers correct to be able to pass, but that should be stipulated in the actual assessment itself. But at the end, your grade will be satisfactory or unsatisfactory. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video right now. I'm going to give the learners the chance to go through each of the units themselves. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to discuss them. I'm going to get each of them to answer any of the questions questions they have about each of the units, and then we'll discuss as a group if we can see if there's a common pattern or anything at all that they would like to identify that we can change. So I'll just pause this now so you don't have a 20-minute video of watching them fill out forms.